we go. Let's see. Can you hear me now? There we go. For some reason my microphone was not, there we go, okay. Yeah, my microphone wasn't being recognized by the computer for some reason. But hello all. Sorry for the weird technical difficulties. But yeah, hello. I am excited to paint Christmassy things, even though it's not even Thanksgiving yet. I love this time of year. So I hope you have your cards. I kind of DIY'd my cards out of my mixed media paper. Where did my... Oh, I think it's right here. I did this earlier, which is something a little bit different. I did it for my patron art challenge, and then I cut it and adhered it to just a postcard that I had, or like what I used, my 5x7, what I used for my postcards. And it came out really nice, and it's really sturdy. So if you don't have cards, but you have mixed media paper, you could definitely paint on that and then cut it to size, or you should probably cut it to size first, and then just adhere it on to your card, your make-believe card. But I'll let people in on that little secret before class. But Tanya, how are you? And hello Ace from Canada. Hello, Paula. Her name is Paula. Okay, got it. Will canvas paper work? Canvas paper, if it's like the paper kind, then yes. If it's the actual stretched canvas that's just in sheets, that probably won't work. But yeah, canvas paper will work. I actually have... Canvas paper works a lot like mixed media paper, except canvas paper is... it has like the canvas texture. So you're getting more of like the same type of texture, but it works the same in that it's paper, and so it dries a little bit faster, and yeah. No, paper kind, yeah. If it's a paper kind, then yeah. You could, what I would suggest, since it is like thick paper, I didn't do this, and I don't know, I might do it later, but what I originally did is I cut out the cards that I was going to adhere to cards, essentially. So I cut out my paper that I'm going to paint on, and then I was just going to put that on. But if you have paper large enough that you can just fold it over, then that also works. You don't have to do the gluing step if you don't want to. But sometimes it's nice to have like a thicker front and then like a thinner back. But it's all preference. It doesn't necessarily matter. They're all homemade cards anyways, so. But yeah, I'm excited to paint these. I think I have everything. Sometimes now getting ready for class, it's a little bit different because I have a newborn, then I have to like make sure that everything is, have to make sure that everything is good and she's fed and she's preferably sleeping, so that I don't have to, is it good here? Getting colder every day. I wish it was getting colder here. It like, we went through a pretty cold spell, and then all of a sudden it got warmer again, and I'm like, no. I like the cooler weather because I get to wear jeans and I don't know. I don't like sweat. I don't like feeling hot. I'd much rather bundle up underneath like a blanket and cuddle with my kids. But, you know, there's that. I'm gonna get my colors out. For the colors, my artist community, we chose a blue theme. Last year it was green and red, and this year it's blue and red. Almost kind of like a Hanukkah. I did more of like a tealish blue, but you guys can pick whatever colors you want. If you wanted to do more of the red, that's fine. If you wanted to do purple, for all I care, as you can tell, it looks great. I think that any sort of colors will look good with this. So that is up to you. Let's see. I think I got everything. Let's see. White, blue. I think I put black was optional because you can get really dark colors from the dark blue, and the raw umber, or the burnt umber, whichever one I put on there. I'm gonna close this window. Have the my friends over. Why is this so bright? It's not bright. It's not that bright. I don't know why it looks so bright. But I have my friends over at the the fire station, hacking away with their chainsaw. You know, normal, everyday things. Hi, Pat. Hello, everyone. Yes, make known that your presence is here. Yeah, this time is just for us to hang out and chat. Wow, my camera is doing weird things right now. From Houston. What's the weather like out in Houston? I'm like playing with my camera to try to figure out this. I don't know. 65 degrees. That I am jealous. I wish it was 65 here. Alright, I don't know what it's doing. This is the default. I feel like it's so bright. It's weird. It's not normally like that. Whatever. Linda, I am in San Diego. So I am down by the beach. Sort of, not like at the beach. We're like 20 minutes away. But close enough to go to the beach every day if we wanted to. But with kids. I don't want to go to the beach every day with kids. No, thank you. This is a very limited palette. Oh, green. I mean green. Silly me. Excuse me. Alright. So essentially of black, white, brown, green, and then whatever main color you want. I'm using blue today. I'm gonna make like a teal blue. But if you wanted to do a different color, you could. Thank you. My sister's in Encinitas, and it's beauty. Yeah, awesome. Yeah, that's not too far from here. 72 here in Florida. Yeah. Is it muggy in Florida? I always hear that it's like really moist in Florida, and that nobody likes the weather there. But I feel like some people like the weather there because a bunch of people live there. So, do any of you have a book like this that you like draw or paint in? I've found it very relaxing to have like a book rather than just like loose papers everywhere. Let me know what you practice in. It's kind of a fun thing. I feel like everybody likes to practice differently. I have this mainly for watercolors when I do watercolor practice, but I also have it for acrylics when I want to practice certain techniques or demonstrate things. I like that it's so organized. I need one. Yeah, I feel like it just keeps it all in the same spot. I used to keep a sketchbook that I carry with me all the time. Man, I wish I had time to sketch like whenever I was out. Not that I'm out very often with the kids and stuff like that, but I would love to just like go to the park and draw. I'm almost tempted to use the other side of it. So, you know, you like draw on this side and then you only draw on the right side, but then I feel like I'm wasting the other side of the paper because it's really thick paper. It's really nice. I have it on my, this specific one I have on my Amazon shop, if anyone's interested in it. I don't know, I've really liked it. I've liked being able to keep it on one spot. I like that I can use it for watercolor or acrylics or just drawing. It comes in a 3-pack, which is nice. So when I'm done with this one, I still have 2 more. I have my sticker here so that I know that this is the one that I'm using currently. But I don't know, I like that I get to just like flip through and look at all the things that I've painted over the last few months with watercolor. It's a very slow process with watercolor. This is like, I mean, I've done a couple other things, but I don't know where they are because they weren't in the book, and I can't look at them because they were just anywhere. And one of them's a bookmark, so theoretically, I know where it is, but I only see it when I use that book, which isn't very often as a mom of 3. It's not very often I get to sit down and read. But for anyone wanting the traceable, there's that. I have, they're super simple designs, so like you do not need the traceable. But if you want to support the page, support me as an artist and a teacher, you can also get traceables with it. But they might be helpful for anyone who maybe struggles with like placement or just doesn't want to deal with, you know, drawing things on there. But I'll be going over all of the designs as we move forward. But I'll also, I haven't linked this in a while. Here is my Amazon shop in case anybody wants to, and I do have a US shop and a Canada shop for those in Canada, because I know a lot of people had asked about it at one point. But let's see. I think I have everything. About 5 more minutes. A little hint for some of the cards, specifically, I think it's really only this first one that we're doing. I would suggest having some tape to put around the sides. So just some painter's tape. I wouldn't use Scotch tape unless it's the one that's like filmy, because it'll stick to the paper too much and it will like tear it off. If you use painter's tape, typically it doesn't have as much of a stick, and it comes off the paper a lot easier. So we'll be doing that one first, because if we need to let things dry, then we can do another card while we let this base dry. But with that said, I would grab yourself some tape so that we can, you can go all the way to the edge, and that's totally fine too. I just find having that clean line is nice. Washi tape. Yeah, washi tape works. I've always wanted to try washi tape. I will say I've never actually tried it, but I know a lot of artists use washi tape. There's a artist, her name is Emily Harvey Art, and she created what she calls hedge bob. It's essentially a hedgehog, but it's named after her mom, who she calls Bob, so hedge bob. And they're so cute. She made some washi tape that had like these little hedge bobs on them, and it was adorable, and I almost bought some because that'd be really useful for something like this, but I didn't. I wish I did, but sometimes I don't always have the money to spend on extra things. But yes, washi tape should work. I think it probably works better than the painter's tape. This is called artist tape. This one is from Hippie Crafter, which I like better than the other painter's tape that I have. I will say that, because I feel like I have less tearing when I use the canvas paper. I noticed a big difference when I was using just some brand I got off of Amazon, and then when Hippie Crafter initially sent me their their paints, they also sent me some tape, and I noticed a big difference between this tape and this one. They look the same, but for some reason I had a lot less tearing. Now I use the canvas pad versus the canvas paper, and so it's just canvas material, so I don't have that problem anymore. But whenever I use paper or anything like that, I'll use the Hippie Crafter stuff. Does anybody have any questions before we get started that I could answer, or at least keep in the back of my mind when I am teaching later today in 2 minutes? I think I forgot to switch it upside down, now that I think about it. Any tips of the writing, like how to keep it smooth? For, you mean painting? like if you're painting it, make sure that your consistency of the paint that you're using is fairly liquid, like liquid foundation. Maybe a little bit more because you're going to be on paper and not, you're going to be on paper and not canvas. So you have to make sure that it's a really smooth consistency. Okay. My camera might be upside down because it's like above here instead of over here because I'm on my desk instead of my easel, so I might have to like turn it around. So okay, let's get started with class. Yep, it's upside down. Okay, let me figure out how to turn this around. Okay. Transform. Yes, all of my live classes are available after to watch forever. Here we go. Ooh, now I have to resituate it. There we go. I wish it was brighter. Maybe I can turn this. This is a new setup because I'm not on the easel today. I am on my my desk. But hello everyone, welcome to class. I'm super excited for this one. It's going to be a little bit different. We are making cards and not painting on a canvas. So yeah, grab your cards or whatever you are painting on and we will get started. So for today, the colors I am using can be different than what you're using. I mean, they can always be different than what you're using, but particularly my artist community, which if you're not a part of my artist community, a link was just sent of my link tree. If you want to get in touch with my Facebook, my Instagram, my artist community, all of those links are in that link. Get in touch with that. I often do polls and other things in my Patreon as well as on my community page. And this year they voted on a blue theme. So last year we did red and green and white, and this year we are doing blue, green, and white. But by no means do you have to have the same color. That's just what I'm going to be mixing. That's what I'm going to be doing. But for instance, even this one is purple. So you could do purple, you could do pink, or blue, red, whatever colors you want. But with that, the colors that I have out, I am going to be using acrylics. This one was actually done in watercolor, which is totally fine. If you wanted to join in watercolor, you could also do that. For our colors though, in acrylics, I'm going to be using, you don't have to have black, but I'm getting it out just in case. Black, burnt or raw umber, just some sort of brown, and that's really only for the little trunk of the tree. And then I have Phthlalo Blue. The color I actually have out is ultramarine blue, so I need to switch that with my Phthlalo Blue. Here we go. Phthlalo Blue. You could use ultramarine blue, but Phthlalo Blue has a little bit more of a green in it. So if you are going, I'm going for a little bit more of a tealy blue. So I want to have the Phthlalo Blue instead of the ultramarine blue. And then I have my white. And then I have two different greens that I can kind of mix together to try to find that green that I want. I went with more of like a washed out green, bluish green. If you wanted to go more of like a bright yellow green, you could do that. But again, it's up to you what colors you want to use. These are the 4 designs that we're going to be doing. You can see it over on the right. You'll be able to see those the whole time. These are the ones that I already did. And then you have your cards. So if you didn't buy cards, that is totally fine. If you have canvas paper, really, really thick cardstock, or multimedia paper, you could use either of those. What I would suggest is there's two ways you can do this. You can either, if you have like mixed media paper or something that's thicker, you could literally just cut it to size and then fold it. The other option is that you could cut it out like I've done here. It's the same size, but I just cut it and I only painted on that, and then you could adhere it to another, you could adhere it to your card, or maybe some cardstock that's cut to size. So this is a 5x7 postcard that I used for my postcard club for my patrons, and I wanted something that was a little bit just thicker, and I could use as like a card from the back. So this was a watercolor one that I did either yesterday or the day before, and this is on mixed media paper, but then I glued it to just with some stick glue. I just glued it to this card. So that's a really easy way to do that. Does anybody have any questions about that process, about what to do or how to do it? I guess just figure out which way you want to do it. If you're going to do, you know, it on a card, or if you want to do it on mixed media paper and then adhere it later. Just choose that now and then cut things to size and go from there. Let's see, I have these. Let's see, there we go. Had this all lined up before I started, and then there we go. Okay. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. The only brushes really that we will be using today are, you're gonna want a few different brushes. You're gonna want a relatively medium to small size of a round brush. You're going to want a small brush, so that can either be, let's see, where's my tiny brush? You can have this small brush, just a small round brush. You can also use a tiny brush for the small little details if you wanted. And then let's see, what else did I use for these? I think that was really it. There's not a lot of large brushes because we're not really painting a whole, like a large part. The only thing that we paint a large portion of it is for this one, and which we'll do first, which you could use any large flat or filbert brush for that one, okay? And we're actually going to start with that one. So let's go ahead and get started. So I have this here. For this one specifically, you're going to go ahead and grab your tape if you want. If you want to have that clean line around the top, bottom, and side of it, then you'll use some tape. If you don't really care about that, then you don't need to worry about it. I'm going to go ahead and tape that. I like the look of the clean line. I feel like it looks more, I don't know, not necessarily professional, because it doesn't really matter if it looks professional because everybody knows it's a homemade card. But I just like the look of it. So you're not necessarily painting it down, or you're not necessarily taping it down yet. You're just taping it, because we will be moving it to make sure that it's dried before we move on. So we're gonna paint this side first, and then we're gonna move on to a different one and come back to it once we know that it's dried. But painting things like this, I want to be able to move it. So just depending on, you know, if you're gonna just paint this one, then you can tape it down. But if you want to be able to move it, then I would just tape the sides and still have it, you know, in your hand, be able to move it around. Okay, so once you have that taped, let's go ahead and mix our colors. So I don't really have a pretty blue color like the one that I want, so we're going to go ahead and mix it. I'm going to get out my Phthalo Blue. If you have a pretty color that you want to use that is that color, then don't worry about mixing. But if you want some practice in mixing and trying to get the perfect color that you want to use, then come have fun with me and mix it together. Alright, so I'm getting out my white, my Phthalo Blue, and this is called Viridian Green. It's kind of a bluish green. It's a very dark green that's got a lot of blue in it. It's kind of hard to see here because those two colors look a little bit of the same on the... One of these days I'm going to get a better camera for my palette so you guys can see it better. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and mix this with my palette knife. I always like mixing it with a palette knife versus my brush, because then I don't waste paint inside the brush. I'm going to grab a good chunk of this white, a little bit of blue, and a little bit of green. And just with that, I'm just going to mix it together and see what it comes up with. And then based off of that, I can change the color. So it's a little bit too white, so I'm going to darken it up just a little bit with more Phthalo Blue. And a little bit more of this green. Change the color to a little bit less blue and more teal. And once you have a color that you're happy with, I'm going to do a little bit more blue. I think I want it darker. The part of this that you do want to make sure is that it is a color that's dark enough that you can see the white very clearly on. You want that, you want the bright snowflakes to pop out. And if your blue color isn't bright or light, they aren't bright or dark enough, then the snowflakes aren't going to pop as much. So just keep that in mind. Okay, I am done with my blue color. Just gonna wipe off my palette knife, leave that for later. Okay, so let me know when you guys are at a spot where you have your color, and we can move on. For right now, I am going to adhere the tape just a little bit so that it doesn't fold up. And you're going to get your pencil. I lied. I'm gonna move it. You're gonna get your pencil and you're just going to kind of draw in where you want your things. So the center of the snowflake is gonna be over here. So I'm just gonna put like a little dot. Put a little dot there. That's where I want the center. And then the halfway mark is about right here. So I'm gonna put a little dot here. And there's gonna be like this wave. So if this is the center, the top half is gonna come out. Doesn't have to be perfect. Top half is going to come out and the bottom half is going to go in. Whenever you're sketching, you want to make sure that it is very, very light so that if you mess up or you want to change something, you can easily erase it and try again. So that's what it looks like so far. I have this wavy line. I made 3 dots in the same row to have my reference point. And I went out for the top and then in for the bottom. And I have my little dot here for the middle. And I'm going to actually move it over slightly so that it's in the middle of like this section. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take whatever brush it is that you want to use. I'm going to use a filbert brush because that'll be easier for me to get into the curve right here. If you're using because we're using a paper, you want to make sure to not have too much water, because the more water you have with this, the more that your paper will curl. So if you have thicker paper, it'll less likely be able to curl. But if you're just using plain cardstock or the cards, like the thicker paper of the cards on Amazon or anything like that, you want to make sure just to not use too much water. You will get your brush wet a little bit. Get a little bit of paint, kind of mix it with the water that's in your brush so you're not putting just water on your paper. I'm going to start by just going over that line and then pulling towards myself. And whenever you're working with paper, sorry, not paper, tape, you want to try to either go the same direction as the tape or away from the tape so that you don't scoot paint underneath the paper that, or the tape that you're working with. So I'm just going over that line, create a nice little line, and then I'm pulling down, pulling away from it. And then just kind of work with it, and then just make sure that it is evenly, the paint is evenly dispersed on it. Yes. I'm gonna go ahead and rinse out my brush because I am done with this brush for the entire class. I'm not gonna use it again. You could use a smaller brush, one that you might use again for this one, but I find that having the bigger brush allows me to get really clean, like a really solid clean line. Okay. So now, if you have a tiny brush, or you have a liner brush, you could use either. We are going to create a tiny little line that just follows this curve. You don't have to add this, but while we're at it, you might as well work on thin lines and creating those. What I will say is the easiest way to do this is to make sure that your consistency of paint is fairly liquid. So I'm going to dip my brush into water. I'm going to be using a liner brush. Grab some paint. And whenever I use a round brush, I always make sure that whenever I grab my paint and I'm ready to paint, I'm going to twist my brush and lift off the palette to make sure that all of the clumps of paint are off, all of my bristles are close together so I can get a really clean line. So then I'm just going to follow this line. And take your time. You don't have to go fast at this. If you can only get about an inch, 3/4 of an inch before you have to go get more paint, then do that. And how I get more paint is I just lay it in there and then I twist and lift it off. I'm just going slow and steady. Maybe grabbing a little bit of water, mixing it with the paint, twisting and lifting off. It's always the same process whenever I'm going back to the cards. Whenever I'm using a liner brush and I'm trying to do lines, I'm typically angling my brush and pulling in the direction of the line. I'm not like trying to like go in the direction of the bristles. You want to pull like this, so whichever direction that is, you want to pull that direction. So often you'll see me adjust my my hand. I'll stop what I'm doing and I'll adjust my hand so that I'm pulling in the direction. Alright, while all of that dries, let's go ahead and draw in our little snowflake. So you can use a ruler for this if you want to, or you can use another straight edge if you would like to, however you want to do it. Let's see, you could use another straight edge. So you could use another card if you wanted to. And just very, very lightly draw it in. So first you're going to draw an X. Hi, Lynn. Good to see you. Well, good to hear from you, I should say. And you just want to make sure that the length from the middle to each edge is the same length. And I'll show you a couple tricks to getting some cool effects here in a second. So then you're just going to do it again. So you're making a cross first, and then you're going to make an X. And if you want to try to figure out where the middle is, put a little dot there first. So then you have 2 points of reference. You have the middle dot and then that dot. And that will help you make sure that it's in the middle. So just very lightly. And if it's not perfect, that's okay. It's all gonna come out in the end. Everybody will know that it's a snowflake. And then something that you can do is grab something else that's a smaller circle, and you can put it in the middle. For instance, I can use this, or I could use something else. Make sure it's in the middle, and then put a dot in between all of the lines. I didn't do this the first time. I just eyeballed it, which you can totally do. But if you have something to go around, now I can have that to reference when I'm doing all of these dots. And again, because I have 2 points of reference, I can go straight through the middle here. And I'm just going to do little V's to connect them to the lines that are in the middle. So I'm doing these little V's right here, these V's that connect to everything in the middle. You're just going to connect them. You can just eyeball this. This doesn't have to be perfect. I mean, none of it has to be perfect, but now that you have that, the rest is a cinch. You're going to take a small brush, whatever other small brush that you have. So this one, I'm going to use this one. And you're going to get that same blue that we've been using. Get a little bit of water. And you're essentially going to outline what you've done first, and then we'll add all the details. I feel like I need to have Christmas music here. While we're doing this, what's your favorite Christmas song? I always tend to lean towards the oldies. That's what I grew up with. I feel like they were oldies when my mom, like, they were oldies when I was a kid, so now they're like really oldies. I think one of the only new artists that I've thoroughly enjoyed singing Christmas songs is Michael Bublé, but I feel like he's got like that older kind of sound to him anyways, and maybe that's why I like him. Alright, so that's what mine looks like so far. You're going to get some more paint, and with each one of these sticks that are sticking out, you're going to do 3 little V's, each one getting progressively bigger. So you'll do a dot on the end, and then a V, at each end. And I'm kind of going back and forth between brushes, trying to figure out which one is good for which technique. So just figure out which brush works best for you. I'm attempting to make the outer edges larger and then make them smaller as you come in. You don't have to do this, but that's like what I'm trying to do, and sometimes it kind of works and sometimes it doesn't. If you want to wait on the dots, we can wait for a little bit. I'll show you a little trick to get perfect little dots. Alright, so if you want to add all the little dots, you can turn your turn your brush over, and you can use the end here. You can use the end of this and do it that way, a little perfect dots. If it doesn't come off, then you can like kind of go in like a small little circle. Or you might need to go and get a tad bit more paint. That's how I do my little dots, and then you can do other little dots at the ends of all the V's. And then last time I added just a little bit of a color in the middle, which I had a little bit of, just a tiny bit of color on my paintbrush. I started with the middle and just slowly worked my way out. It's very, very watered down. Barely any paint, but it just gives a little bit something to the middle. It also helps cover up any like imperfections, and I don't know if you've noticed, like I made a little hiccup here, which you could cover that up in white, but I don't really care that much. I think it's cute the way it is, so I'm not gonna try to tamper with it. But yeah, so that's that one. Now this is definitely dry now, so we'll just go ahead and finish this one before we move on to the other ones. I'm gonna leave the lettering to the very end because I think some people might do different letterings. People might do different sayings. Maybe you say something different. So I'm going to leave that to the end, and you can choose whatever you want to do. But for the other two snowflakes, we're going to be using white, and it's the same thing. I'm actually going to use my small one. I'm going to get some white, and you want to make sure, again, that you add a little bit of water so then it goes on the paper really easily. And this one is the same, the small one down here is the same type of, it's got the cross, and then it's got the cross and then the X. So the up and down and then the X. This is the one that has the 6, so it just has a line and then an X that's like even. You can do whatever snowflakes you want though. It does not have to be the same as the ones that I did. But if you want to do the same ones, I'm going to start with a line, and then I'm going to make a cross. And then I'm going to grab a little bit more paint because I think it's time to do that. And then I'm going to make an X that goes straight through the middle. I'm just going to try my hardest to make it as even as possible. But no snowflake, you know, looks the same, so. And then on, if you really look close to this, it's really just a bunch of dots and lines. If you look at that, it's just a bunch of dots and lines. So have fun with it, make it your own. It doesn't have to be like mine. I'm just gonna add a couple little, almost like tree branches to the ones that go up, down, and then to the side. Gonna add dots here and there, and we will be adding snow dots after we're done with our main ones. So now we're gonna go to the top one, and this is done the same way. I'm gonna place it for the most part maybe in the upper part of this area. I'm going to put a dot where I want the middle to be. And then for this one, you're going to do an X, but just make sure that all of the X's, that the X is going to be the same. Try to get it the same. Almost think of it like as a hexagon where you have 4 points like that. Think of it like that, 4 points. And then just connect the dots. I think that one's more even than the first one I did. Having varying thickening of lines can help cover up any mistakes. So for instance, right now I'm making the ends of my lines kind of thicker, almost like teardrops going towards the center. And that helps the ends look more finished rather than just having like maybe your brush strokes of some sort. If your paint isn't going on very well, try adding just a little bit more water to it. At this point, you don't have to worry about it buckling any more than it's going to, just because you've already laid down that foundation of that blue. So it's okay if there's a little bit more water in it. And just like this one over here, this one's got the kind of the V's going on. But again, if you want to do a different snowflake, that's totally fine. Just kind of showing you what I did. Yeah, this one has a lot of the same things as this one, except at the very, very end, I did almost like little snowflakes on the end, so little crisscrosses. So I did little X's. I'm gonna cross it like a T, and then add a little X. Just like that. Just kind of adding to it, adding dots, adding lines, making it a little snowflake. And then once you have that, you get to add the dots. Now you can do like a flicking. If you don't want to do that, I'll show you what I did. And as I just did the same thing we did for the other dots, I turned my I turned it around, got some paint. I'm gonna mix it a little bit with water, ever so slightly, and you're just going to add some snow. After getting your paint, the first couple ones that you put down are going to be the largest, and then they're going to slowly get smaller, so just keep that in mind. And that's pretty much all for the first one. I'm gonna let this completely dry before I paint on the lettering, because I know that because these dots are a little bit thicker, I don't want to put my hand on it. So I'm gonna make sure that this is totally dry before I move on. Okay, which one do you guys want to do next? I think let's do the tree first, because that one doesn't have any green in it. We'll do the tree first, and then we'll do these two, since they have two colors in them. And this one has two colors, but the brown's not used with any of the other ones. So for this one, go ahead and grab another card or another piece of paper. The only thing that we are drawing, where'd my pencil go? The only thing that we are drawing on this one is a straight line. So you want to make sure that you have a little bit of space for whatever, if you want to write something. I think I put in Merry Christmas, but digitally, I put Merry Christmas at the bottom. So just leave that space empty, and then maybe put your finger there or whatever. Make sure it's in the middle, and you're just going to draw a very, very faint line to go off of. So this is what I have, just a little line. That's all I have. And then this one's it's a little bit more of a watercolor technique, I like to say. Because we're going to have a little bit more water in our paint. And it's a little bit more of it's a very loose tree. What someone would call a loose watercolor. But grab your medium size small brush. A little bit of water. Maybe a little bit more water. So it just moves easily and it's not clumpy. And you're gonna start at the top. And just kind of go back and forth and be loose with it. You're just gonna go and give little branches. And you'll see that I'm just going back and forth and adding little, almost like little scribbles. And I'm just letting it kind of appear as it does. And I'm not being overcritical about it. When you get into the bigger ones, you can be a little bit more like tree-like with it, if I may say. So like the bottoms of it, you'll see. The bottoms of it get a little bit more frilly. The trick with it is it's not cover up all of the background. And if you're seeing too many of like the actual brush strokes, then maybe you might need a little bit more water or a little bit more paint. Or if you like that, then you can just keep that. Keep doing what you're doing. Just kind of scribbling a little bit. And then have a look at your tree and see if you need to add anything anywhere. Little textures here and there. And then you're going to rinse out your brush. And get out just a tiny bit of brown. I think I might have gotten burnt sienna earlier. I think I like the brighter brown. So instead of burnt umber, I'm going to use burnt sienna. I think I might have put that on the list anyways. I'm just going to grab a tiny bit. You don't need much. I'm just gonna put a little trunk. And I have it a little bit stylized so I don't actually touch the tree. I leave that little white space in there. In between the tree and the trunk. And there you go. It's super quick card. I'll leave this here so you guys can see. And while you guys are finishing up that one, let me know which one you want to do next. Whether you want the ball or the wreath. Kind of pause and let everybody catch up. Where's everybody at? Let me know what you're working on right now. Give me a gist of where the class is at. Because normally, I was talking to a patron the other day, and I was just like, I recently did a in-person, it was outside and masked, and I did an outside painting class, which I normally did pre-COVID, and I was reminded of all the things that I used to teach, just like the little things as, and I would like walk around and see everybody's paintings as they go, and then be able to give them tips and things like that based off of what I was seeing. And I realized that like I can't do that here. I was reminded that I can't do that here because I can't see everybody's paintings, you know? So if you need help, or you have something that maybe you missed or whatever, please comment and let me know. That way I can help you and the whole class, frankly. I love how your tree looks. Mine looks more blobbed together. Yeah, it's it can take some practice, but hopefully you have a couple cards you can work on. I think the trick is to not cover up all of the white. So I mean, even in these two, they look different, because this one, it was a little bit more, I had a little bit more water, so it wasn't as like sketchy, but I also covered up more white. Here you can see all of the white in the tree that I didn't cover up, and that gives the tree a lot of texture, and like versus this one, I have bigger pieces that are white. As I came down, I was like, wait, I need more white, and so I started adding that. So do another one and see how it comes out. I bet you it'll be different. I think I like the shape of this tree. I think I went wide too fast here. I fixed it a little bit. But yeah, just play around with it. Do it a couple times. This one is super quick, so you could probably do another one while we're waiting. Or you can always do a couple after. Finishing up my green and ready to go do the trunk. Oh, you're doing green. Okay, doing green one. Love the wreath. Yeah, let's go ahead and do the wreath. The wreath is another really easy one. So I will set these aside. And grab another card. Alright, so for this one, you're going to want to find something. What did I use last time? Oh, I think I used this. Okay, you're going to want to find something that is circular and a good size. It can be a cup. I'm going to use my tape, just the inside of it. It can be anything you want. If you don't have something, you can most certainly just draw a circle. I just find this to be a very, very easy, simple thing. I'm going to go ahead and place this where I need it. Draw a very, very light circle. And make sure that the circle that you have is a little bit farther from the edge. A little bit far from the edge, so that you have room for your wreath, because this circle is going to be the middle of your wreath. Okay, so you have that. I went a little bit dark, so I'm just going to erase a little bit of this. And then I'm going to erase the top of it all the way. If you want it to connect, then you can just keep it. But for this one, I have it kind of like, it's not connecting, it's just kind of there. If you want to connect it, that's totally fine. I think I say that all the time. It's totally fine, because it is. Okay, and then, so for the wreath, you could do a bow. I did roses, I did flowers. You could do berries. You could do Christmas balls. There's many things you could do. For this one, I did flowers because I was feeling florally. So I'm going to show you how to do that. I feel like the other things are fairly simple. Like if you're doing Christmas balls and you would just put a bunch of circles everywhere, and then maybe give it like a shimmer. If you were doing a bow, you just do that bow in the middle, give it some shadow, give it some highlights to define it. But for instance, for this, it's a little bit of like a sketchy little roses. So we are going to do that. I'm going to show you how to do that. So the first thing you're going to want to do is just draw little circles where you want them, because we're going to do our greenery. We're going to do our greenery first. And then anywhere where you kind of want to put another little blob of a rose, just put a little circle, just so that you don't cover it all up with green. Now we are going to get our green out. And I'm going to mix just a little bit of brown with it, a little bit of burnt sienna, because my green is quite blue in my opinion. So I need to kind of dirty it up in a sense. And it's really dark. The one I have is darker than what I want it, so I'm going to be adding just a little bit of white with it. But feel free to create any green that you want for this. Okay. I think I like that. There we go. So now you're going to take, and guys, I promise this is like the easiest thing. So, you know, on here, when we were doing these little V's, you're going to do that just over the whole thing. So you're going to get a little bit of water in your brush, get some of this paint, and you can start at the top or you can start where these are. Doesn't really matter. And you're just going to sketchily add in and pull the green from the outside in. Like so. So in just little bits, I'm pulling in like that little V's that we were doing. And then just go around those little circles that you had, just loosely. And you're going to pull all the way, everything's kind of centered to that, the roses at the bottom, so everything is pulled down. Like this. So it looks a little weird now, but I have blue coming in here, 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 and then a few here, there. Okay? And we'll be adding little like sticks in a second here. I wanted to add just a little bit more to the left side because it was looking less than the left side, the right side. So there's that. So then what you're going to go into is with a little bit of, I'm going to lighten up some of my blue with my white. So that I now have 2 shades of blue. A little bit of water mixed in, so it's not just plain paint. I'm going to very roughly put in some blue areas. Again, just like the other places, you don't want to fully cover up all of the white. And I'm just putting in little blobs, but just making sure that there's still white in there. I'm kind of going around. If you were to, let's see, I could get some scrap paper. If I were to show you, where's my book? Okay, if I were to show you on here, this is essentially what I'm doing. I'm getting some paint and I'm picturing that here's the center and the rose is going like this. That's essentially what the rose is. The first part of this is literally just kind of putting in some of this blue so that we can come back. See, this was done neatly and this was done a little sketchy, and I like the look of the sketchy one better. Depending on what you like, you'll want to change accordingly. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in with my dark color and I'm going to just accentuate some of this. Like that. But you'll see if I cover up all the white, it's hard to see the rose and what everything is. So that's essentially what I'm doing. But first you got to get that light in there. And then you'll add another couple kind of in the different areas around it. So anywhere where you feel like it's missing something, you can add some more. Maybe they're little tiny buds. So So then you'll come back with your dark color. Just very sketchy, add it in there. And then the last little touch, if you were doing a one with bows, you could put berries in it. There's different things that you could do to add pops of color in that greenery. And then for this, we're going to add just a tiny bit of black. If you don't have black, you don't want to use black, you could mix your brown and your Phthlalo Blue. That makes a pretty dark color. I think that's what I used last time. I'm gonna mix my brown with my black, so it's just a dark brown. And you're just gonna add little sticks. Particularly out here in front, as there's going to be less greenery, is what I imagine. It just adds a little bit of a different texture and something else to fill in the wreath. There's that. And that's pretty much it for that one. And I will add my writing after it's completely dry, just like the other ones. And then lastly, we have our Christmas ball. Now there's definitely so many different options that you could do for the actual ornament, but I'm just going to be doing a simple ball. We are going to be using our pencil for this one. So the first thing that you need to do is figure out where you want your ball. I put the joy over to the side because I felt like putting it in the middle, it was going to be too crowded, because I felt like I could have put the whole thing up a little bit. So keep that in mind. If you want something written across the middle of it, I would say move all of the greenery up a little bit and maybe your ball over to the right just a tad bit, but that's totally up to you. The first thing I'm gonna do, because I didn't do this last time and so I kind of had to make the ball a little bit smaller, is I'm going to draw where I want the ball first and then draw the greenery around that. So I'm gonna get this again, figure out, that's close enough. I'm gonna clean up this drawing, just this little ball here. Yeah, that's good enough. Okay. So I have my ball first, and then I'm going to draw where it comes up. So that's where it needs to hang. So now I'm gonna from the corner, and notice where I'm putting my hand. This is so that the curve that my hand naturally creates can create this branch. I'm going to turn it. Use your hand to the advantage. Like turn it around, you know. So I'm going to do that one. Erase this other line because I was a bit too high on it. So that's where it's going to branch out from. And then you have another one. See how I'm turning this around so I can use that curve? This one comes out right here. So I'm going to go from up here. Just slowly connect the line. This one comes out. Alright, so this is the main lines. So you have this one that curves from the corner, comes down, and then comes over here. That's what this is being hung off of. It has one branch that goes almost straight down, and then one that comes from up here, and that one branches off. And it doesn't have to be exactly like this. That's just what I did for this specific one to try to kind of fill in that space nicely. And then if you want to draw in the little holly leaves is what I did. I would suggest doing that so that it's easier to place them in case you want to place them differently. I know that for me, this is the only one that I did twice in creating it because I placed things and then they didn't come out the way that I anticipated. I feel like it didn't look very good where I had placed them. So I would suggest drawing it in first. Just putting in my leaves. And the other small leaves I'm not going to put in until I'm not going to put in the whole thing. I'm going to draw in lines for them, but I'm not going to put in all of it. There. So that is my completed drawing. And when you're painting these in, much like watercolor, you can leave parts of the paper white, almost as if it was a like a highlight. You can come back in and add white, but you don't need to if you just keep it blank. So I'm gonna go ahead and grab, you can use whatever brush you want. I think I might grab a flat brush or an angled brush. Let me see what I have. This one's a little bit too big. Maybe? Yeah, it's too big. If you have a really small angled brush, that would be like perfect for it. But I'm going to use my filbert brush so I can get in the little corners. Alright, but first things first, let's go ahead and draw in all of these straight lines. And again, I'm turning this so that I can pull towards the, I'm pulling away from myself because that's the easiest for me. Don't forget to add a little bit of water to your green, and then to roll your brush, twist your brush. I'm going to use this same brush, and by placing it a little bit, placing it down a little bit harder, I'm going to get little teardrops. And I'm going to do that for all of the other leaves. So I just place it down and then slowly lift up my brush. Place it down, lift up my brush. That one was a weird angle, so I'm going to turn this around. Place it down, lift my brush up. Oh. I had too much water in my brush. Alright, so for this part, I'm going to mix some of this green with a tad bit of white, just so it's not so dark. And I'm going to do a couple leaves with that, just so that when I put in the other one, you'll see there's 2 tones of greens on there. Part of that was I just had more water on there, but I think I'm going to change the color this time and see how it works. Gonna go in with just my dark. There we go. Now we're going to do the ball much like a little bit of watercolor, where we start off with it's a little bit more of a watery substance. Alright, now I'm just focusing on that edge. And we're just going to build on the layers. And the layers are particularly on the left side and then on the right. I'm going to come in with a little bit of white because I went a little bit too dark up at the top. You can always give a little bit of a highlight at the bottom too. Maybe you can give a little bit of a highlight. In other places. And take your blue and pull it all the way to the branch. Making mine a little bit thicker at the branch because maybe it's like tied or something. And then real quick with the pencil, just so I can get the size of it first. I have a little bow. And then I'm going to give it two little tails. And there we go. There are our 4 cards. If you haven't yet already, you can go ahead and take off the tape very carefully take off the tape of this one. I don't know why, but that is so satisfying. And then if any of your cards have warped, either warped or warped badly or anything like that, after they're completely dry, set them either inside a book or in between two hard books, and maybe something heavy on top, and that will flatten them out. Mine didn't warp too bad, even then. But yeah, so there's your little set of 4 cards, and if you were making more, then you could just do all of the same ones at the same time, and that way you could just kind of get them all done. Feel free to do any sort of calligraphy that you have for doing the sayings, or anything like that. But yeah, that's pretty much it. That's pretty much the end of class. Let me know if you need help with anything else. While I'm here, I'm going to add some pure white to this one. Just, I want to give a little bit more of a shine to my ball. If I can find my white. I feel like it needs just a little bit more of a reflection. Just add a little bit more of a contrast to that. There we go. A little bit more shimmery. If I had my glitter out, I would like glitter them up and put some glitter on certain things, like maybe this and the what you could have done here is before you put on the white, you could put a little bit of glue, sprinkle on some glitter before you do that. But while I'm here, I'm gonna go ahead and let's see. I have a watercolor pen, a watercolor brush pen, and I'm going to write on these. I would definitely say to practice. If you're ever doing calligraphy, or you've always wanted to try it, my best advice is to, whenever you're going up, you go thin, and then when you go down, you go thick. So for instance, if I was to do Merry Christmas, when I go up, I go thin, and then when I come down, I go thick. So hopefully that makes sense. Come here. It's not coming. But yeah. I think I'm going to write this in first. So there's my joy. And then I'll do let it snow. that one. Let's see, how did I have, I liked the lettering I did on this other one. There's that one. Merry Christmas. One more. Where'd it go? It's hiding. I'll do Merry Christmas again. I want to do not cursive though. Just do some fun. There. All right. Well, I am all finished with mine. I hope you guys enjoyed class. I'm looking forward to our next one. We are doing a snowman next for our next live class. And yeah, I look forward to it. Make sure to set a reminder so that you don't miss out. But even if you do miss it, you can always join the live replay that I always leave up for you guys. But yeah, I hope you guys all have a wonderful evening or morning, wherever it is that you're painting right now. And yeah, if you are interested in sharing it with me, I would love to see your guys's cards and what you decided to create with all the different colors that colors that you could have added and done, and different ways that you could have done it. So let me just post this. So this is a link to my Facebook group. Definitely join there. Share with me your wonderful artwork. I look forward to seeing it, and we'll see you in the next one. Okay, bye guys.